When Gabriel opened his eyes, he gazed upwards into a clear blue sky. Sitting up, he took a good look at his surroundings. It seemed like he was on an empty beach with a shoreline that extended for miles. Where am I? He wondered. The last thing he remembered was the feeling of being sucked into the jadeite. Suddenly, dark clouds began to roll in, enveloping the beach in shadow. Gabriel looked upwards. Suspended in the sky, lit by flashes of lightning, was an ethereal woman dressed in white. Her hair was wild as if the static in the air charged it. Firmly gripped in her right hand was a gleaming sword. She fixed her gaze on Gabriel and began to approach. The clouds churned and toiled chaotically as she drew nearer. Gabriel's heart clenched in fear. Then she spoke, her unexpectedly gentle voice echoing throughout the landscape. Do not be afraid, Gabriel. I will be your protector. Almost immediately, Gabriel calmed. Despite her terrifying appearance, he didn't sense any maliciousness from her as she landed barefoot on the beach before him. She held the sword out to him with two hands. Skypiercer is yours. Will you accept it? She gazed at him expectantly. Gabriel took a look at the sword in the woman's hands. The blade glinted brightly even in the dim light. Its hilt was wrapped in well-worn brown leather, and it had a plain pommel. There was nothing spectacular about this so-called Skypiercer, but deep down, Gabriel had an inexplicable feeling that the sword was important to him. With steady hands, he reached out to receive the sword. Though lightweight, Skypiercer was remarkably well-balanced. Its hilt fit perfectly into the palm of his hand as if it were made for him. Almost instantly, he felt a deep affinity with the sword. Who are you? Gabriel implored. Why are you giving me this sword? The woman in white curled her lips upward into a small smile. Then, just as suddenly as she appeared, she disappeared along with the dark rolling clouds. The sky was clear once again. Gabriel furrowed his brows in confusion. But before he could gather his thoughts, he heard an old man's croaky voice call out, "You there!" He turned toward the voice and saw an old, bearded man with a walking stick waving him over. He stood outside a small wooden hut, nestled in the sand dunes further up the beach. Had he been there this whole time? Gabriel wondered to himself. This entire situation was getting stranger by the moment. "Over here!" The old man called out to him again, jostling him out of his thoughts. Clutching the sword firmly in his right hand, Gabriel trekked toward the man. "Who are you? Where am I?" he asked the stranger as he drew closer. He caught the old man looking at him with an indecipherable expression before chuckling and turning around to walk into the hut. "Come in. I've got tea on the stove." Gabriel hesitated for just a moment before his curiosity got the better of him. "Where are we?" Gabriel blurted as he followed the man into the hut. "Well," the old man replied cheerily as he poured them mugs of piping hot tea, "it seems that you're in the jadeite." The moment the words left the man's mouth, it all came back to Gabriel. The piece of jadeite had been sucking up his magical powers since he picked it up a month ago. "You!" Gabriel accused, pointing his newly acquired sword at him. "You've been stealing my powers." The old man's friendly disposition suddenly grew stern. "Don't point that sword at anyone unless you know how to wield it, boy." At the man's severe tone, Gabriel couldn't help but lower his sword. He had been taught some basic sword fighting skills at the Yamato clan, but no one used it along with their Sunblessed powers. Sunblessed sword wielders were rare in the world, especially in Valondra, where only a handful of students from the Southern Academy and some of the more prolific families had the inherited ability. From what Rowan told him, Haleth, where the Yamato clan was based, hadn't had a Sunblessed sword wielder in centuries. "Better," the old man hummed as he set down 2 mugs of tea on the table. "Come, drink." Gabriel sat across from the old man, eyeing his mug warily. He only drank from his mug once the old man had taken a sip from his own. "I admit to siphoning your powers. I was in a dire state, and needed them to recover from my injuries," the old man confessed sheepishly. "But you can have them back now." Almost immediately, Gabriel felt a tingling sensation spread across his body, and he knew without a doubt that his Sunblessed abilities had returned. His heart soared with excitement and relief. The old man looked at him with a twinkle in his eye. "In fact, I will repay you tenfold for your troubles. I will guide you. Your abilities will increase exponentially, and you will reach heights you never imagined." Even though his interest was piqued, Gabriel was suspicious of this man's bold statements. "But who are you?" The old man chuckled in response. "You can call me Master Talon. If you're suspicious of my abilities, we can have a trial. A sort of matchmaking session, if you will, to see if we're a good fit." "I can't. I need to get back to my world. I have an important challenge in the morning." Gabriel replied regretfully, the promise of good tutelage, especially having been rejected from the Southern Academy, was tempting, but he couldn't miss his fight with Matthias. "Just as well for you. Time works differently in the Jadeite. 10 years in this world is a day in yours. You'll be back with time to spare," Master Talon revealed. "Maybe we'll even find time to teach you how to wield that sword of yours." Gabriel almost spat out his tea. You're a sword wielder?" "I wouldn't have offered to teach you otherwise," Master Talon replied with a glint in his eye. He knew the young man would find it hard to resist the opportunity to learn how to wield the sword. The art was rare, and he knew of Gabriel's deep desires to prove himself to his clan. "Then I put myself in your hands, Master Talon." Gabriel bowed to his new teacher. "Lesson 1. The art of controlling the sword." Master Talon sat on a wooden stump outside his hut. Across from him, Gabriel sat cross-legged on the dirt ground with his sword laid out before him. "The sword is merely steel. It only becomes magical when it is wielded. The art of controlling the sword lies in becoming one with it as if it were an extension of yourself." Gabriel frowned, trying to understand Master Talon's words. But how? "Close your eyes," the older man guided. "Regulate your breath and rid yourself of all thought." Gabriel did as the master instructed, and soon found himself beginning to feel open and connected to everything around him. He felt his individual self melt away and merge into the vast unity of life. "That's it," he heard Master Talon say. "Now, accept that you, your sword, and your spirit are one." Gabriel could feel Skypiercer melding into his being and becoming an extension of him. There was no sense of where he ended, and Skypiercer began. "Good," came Master Talon's voice. "Now lift your sword." Gabriel focused on the sword in front of him and imagined it lifting off the ground. It moved a little. Excited by his initial success, Gabriel tried to move the sword again, but this time it remained motionless. Frowning, he redoubled his concentration, but the sword still refused to stir. "I lost it!" Gabriel groaned in frustration as he felt Skypiercer separate from his being. Master Talon merely laughed at him. "It hasn't even been an hour. It took me months to master controlling my sword. Close your eyes. We're going to try again." Huffing, Gabriel followed Master Talon's instructions. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed within the Jadeite. Gabriel stood on a rock looking out at the vast ocean. Clothes fluttering in the sea breeze. He pointed at the sky with 2 fingers and yelled, "Rise!" All of a sudden, a sword shot up into the sky, piercing through the clouds. Gabriel's eyes narrowed in concentration, then he flicked his fingers to the left. Skypiercer sliced through the clouds on the left. His mouth curved upward into a small smile as he continued to wave his 2 fingers. In the sky, the sword moved in accordance with Gabriel's commands, creating crisscrossing trails of light across the horizon. But soon, Gabriel felt his energy wane, his ability still too underdeveloped to sustain his new skill. for a prolonged period. He called Skypiercer back to him, and the sword flew right into his grip. "Master Talon, I did it!" he exclaimed happily. Master Talon had been watching the sight from the shore. The young man's progress had been beyond expectation. Gabriel had managed to master the art of controlling the sword in a mere month, quicker than any sword wielder he'd heard of. "Very good," he praised. "You may return to your world for now. I need to recuperate." "Master Talon, what exactly ails you?" Gabriel asked in concern. In the month he had spent studying under the old man, he hadn't been able to glean much about the master's mysterious injury, just that it had required him to siphon Sunblessed magic from another source, and that he needed high-quality crystals to aid in his healing. Without answering, Master Talon waved him off. Gabriel's vision suddenly went blurry. He felt his body grow slack, and the next thing he knew, he was back in his living quarters. He immediately felt for his sword and was relieved to find that it was still nestled perfectly in his hand. Checking internally, he found his Sunblessed powers remained intact. His time in the Jadeite hadn't been a dream. He really had his abilities back, and more than that, he discovered his sword-wielding abilities. He reached into his pocket and was comforted to feel the carved piece of Jadeite on his fingertips. He'd only just begun his sword training and didn't want to lose his only resource to improve his skills. He looked out the window just as the horizon began to brighten, a thin reddish line emerging, separating earth from sky. He magicked Skypiercer from sight, knowing that he couldn't let anyone know that he had become a sword wielder. Rowan had told him a story of a Sunblessed sword appearing in Valondra decades ago, and when the people of Valondra heard about it, a bloody fight ensued with different clans and tribes fighting to possess the sword. Until he could properly wield and defend Skypiercer, Gabriel thought it best to keep his newfound abilities hidden. As he stepped out into the courtyard to make his way toward the main circle, he cleared his head of distractions. It was time to defend his position as clan heir.